these situations, you guys, the trouble I could have saved myself from if I just like use this mentality. Because here's the thing, we have an idea of what we want at the end, right? Like you have an idea of the qualities of your future husband, but at a young age, that doesn't seem like, I feel like women, as we get older, we're like, okay, date intentionally. And you think even when we were younger, this thought would occur to us. But I mean, I think not just women, like everyone, right? Like I used to always date thinking, okay, do we vibe? Nice guy, da 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 da. Like, the basics were met. But now when you date intentionally, there's just no room for BS. Like when you're like, okay, I'm actually actively choosing my future partner, you're just like, okay, what's the state of his emotional health? What's the state of his relationship with his family? What's his views on health? What's his views on mental health? Like now I am so keen, like I am I have a very keen sense of what to look for, and it all just comes down to lack of clarity, or this idea of like the in the meantime guy, right? Like you're like, okay, I know this guy, I don't want him in my future, but like he's good enough to like waste time with, but you actually have no intention of marrying him. And like every time he brings up marriage, every time he brings up kids, you're just like, oh, like you guys, I had a boyfriend who really always tried to bring up like, meeting his family, like, just getting closer to his family. And I always was like, oh, I don't know, like, and the thing is, it wasn't intentional. Like you almost do these things without realizing, because you just kind of get caught in this day-to-day routine that you're not actually thinking. Do you know what I mean? Mental activity is not the same thing as thinking, you guys. Thoughtful analysis of why am I engaging in the behaviors that I'm engaging in? Why am I engaging with the people I'm engaging with? Why am I, doing the things I'm doing? Why is a significant chunk of my time and a significant chunk of my life going towards this? Okay. A lot of people don't analyze that because, number one, I think neuroscience, but your brain doesn't like being looked at. Like when you put your mind and you put your life under a little magnifying glass and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna take a hard look at you, your brain's like, like it's really, really hard to like sit yourself down to journal, right? Anyone who's big on journaling, I try to be big on journaling, but my brain's like, no, we don't want to know. Like it's easier to not confront the issues in your life. You know what I mean? It really is very concerning how we don't think, because when you date for just like, do we vibe? Is he cute? Like, does this seem like a good enough fit? Like, I know people who will date like this. Do we vibe? Is he cute? Nice enough? Whatever criteria, like, very, very baseline criteria, but they don't even have like you guys, like my husband list, I have like a Google Doc. It's like whatever, 25 pages. I have like pictures from Pinterest of what he's gonna look like. Like when I tell you, clarity is often the biggest issue when it comes to figuring out why your dating life sucks. Because here's the thing, would you be dating the people you're dating if you really held them up to what you want your future husband to be. And a lot of the time, if you're like so in love and you're just like emotions are out of control and your logic brain is no longer intact when it comes to this person, like your emotions just override basic logic, because number one, I think there's just like this really bad stereotype against being single. Like, people are embarrassed to be single. Being in a bad relationship is worse than being single, you guys, okay? Be like the finish line, whatever, of life, of relationships, is to be happy. It's not to get married. It's not to have a boyfriend. That's not the finish line. The finish line is, are you actually happy? And it's like shocking when you realize a lot of people aren't. Like, I know so many relationships just because I'm really close to the girlfriend, but like on like face value, they look like great relationships, but like, you know, a lot of them were girlfriends, and like I heard, you know, they would confide in me about the relationship problems, and it would be so obvious to me. Why are you engaging with this person? You should immediately remove this person from your life. This obviously is not something you would want in a future partner. These are not qualities you would want. But it's like, oh, I love him so much. Oh, we get along. And to me, that's not dating intentionally. Because if you're dating intentionally, you are looking for a criteria to be met, and no matter how emotionally involved you are, if you suddenly find out that those like, you know, whatever, you've been dating for a while, you're whatever 3 months in, and a criteria that you assumed he had but actually doesn't have is broken, and even though you're really emotionally involved, you don't step away. And that is lack of intention, because if you were dating intentionally, your logical mind would be intact, and you would know that there are things you will not compromise on, no matter how much you love that person. And that's just like self-respect, right? There are compromises and little things, but like your big picture, your list, the list you have before going in to a date, you need to have that list in mind. Because if you throw that list out because you're like, oh my God, he's perfect, he's this, like he's really very well meeting a lot of superficial criteria, but not meeting the big picture criteria, am I okay with putting up with this character flaw for the rest of my I mean, you know, obviously you can get a divorce, but why would you make that commitment? Why would you get married in the first place if you don't have an intention of doing your best to whatever, be together for marriage for as long as you can? Even then, I feel like people take marriage too seriously. Like, I really think marriage is just like, I don't know. See, that's the thing. Like, sometimes I'm like, okay, let's just like, this is obviously working. Let's just like figure it out as it goes. But I feel like a lot of people take that approach to life, and then they have this life in their hands, and they're just like, oh my God, how did I even get this life? You know what I mean? So just being really, really intentional about where your time goes and who you engage with. Because you guys, you are the average of whatever, the 5 people you hang out with, 7 people you hang out with, you are the average of those people. So you have to be very, very careful who you keep around. And then I think it was also, I don't know, CFO of Meta, some article, but she says the most important business decision you will make as a woman is who you marry. Because here's the thing, you guys, if you whatever, like, subscribe to the 9-to-5 life and you like have a day job, if you are working 9 to 5 and then you come home to a relationship that is work, you also have a 5 to 9. Okay, like, if you don't have a good relationship, you're practically working 2 jobs. And the thing is, I think relationships are supposed to be the easiest thing in the world. Like, if a relationship is work, I think you're doing it wrong. If a relationship is hard, you're in the wrong relationship. I genuinely believe that. But I think we have so much attachment to this idea of like forever or like marriage, but I really, really think relationships are supposed to be the easiest thing in the world. Like, they're supposed to be fun. And if it doesn't feel fun, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong, and that's it. And it really is very groundbreaking. Like, I had that revelation just a few months ago because, you know, I've had relationships where it just obviously wasn't a good fit. And like, I would always hesitate when long-term commitment was brought up. But it wasn't because I have commitment issues. It was just because I had commitment issues when it came to that certain guy. And it's just crazy. Like, the revelations I've had, you guys, where I'm just like, oh my God, like, all the signs are always there. You're just choosing to ignore them. Like, it really is easier to be oblivious. And that really is a problem, because you will continue on in misery because you don't want to take a hard look in the mirror. And that look in the mirror is really, really uncomfortable, but you will thank yourself so much. Like, I fell off the face of the earth in like, what was it? Probably last September. Oh my God, it's been like almost a year. But yeah, fell off the face of the earth, like disconnected from social media, disconnected from friends, and really, really just like took a magnifying glass to my life, like holed up in the middle of nowhere, and just really, really took inventory of my life and what habits I was engaging in that I didn't want in my future. Because who you are every day is who you're going to end up being in the future. And it really is how you spend your day to day. So if you're like spending your day to day, you know, in conflict in a partner, trying to like force a partner to engage in these habits, and you're like, oh, I don't like that. Like, even just like the gifts I would get, I remember being like, we're so like, I think in a relationship, you kind of want to date like your mirror, someone who really reflects who you already are as a person, and it's really fun. But like, you know, you can still grow together. They're as committed to growth as you are. If you have like different levels of commitment to growth, that also becomes a problem. So you both have to be the same amount invested in growth. Like, yeah, if you're like super intense and they're just like, if you're like a 10 out of 10 intense and they're like a 7 out of 10 intense, you'll find yourself being frustrated. And I'm not that intense. I feel like I'm really mellow. I'd like to think I'm mellow. Yeah. Anyways, like, it's just crazy because all the signs are always there. But anyways, dating intentionally. Like, if you, number one, have clarity. I really think we should all have a 20-page document on what we want in a partner, and like really, really flesh it out, you know? Because how are you gonna have direction in your life if you don't have a destination? You're just gonna, like, whatever comes by, you're gonna be like, okay, does this kind of work? Okay, it kind of works, great, move on. But like, do things, engage in behaviors very, very intentionally, and that will allow you to build your life. And do not engage in the meantime behaviors. People like, oh, I'm just gonna eat badly in the meantime. I'm just going to engage with these friends I don't really like in the meantime until I have the friends I really want. I'm just going to engage in these kind of dating or this kind of relationship. I'm only going to date these kind of guys because that's where I'm at in my phase of life right now. But when I'm at that phase, I'm going to date a different kind of guy. So it doesn't work like that, because every day you're practicing who you're going to become. So who you're going to become, you have to be that now in every way possible. And that really, really means being very, very careful of who you engage with and where your time goes. Yeah. Like, you guys, the trouble I would have saved myself if I just sat down just one day, if I think I could have figured it out in 4 hours. But you're so used to life being the way it is that you don't really take inventory. You don't really ask yourself, am I happy? Am I stressed out? How much work is this relationship for me? And like the brainwashing that we're all brainwashed into thinking relationships are supposed to be work. We're all brainwashed into thinking like earning money, like having a job is supposed to be hard. Like, no, you're supposed to love it. Love it. And if you don't love it, it is wrong. You are engaging in something that is wrong. And it's so freeing when you finally understand, because you guys, when you understand that life is supposed to be downstream, not upstream, you will let go of so many things and you will realize if it's hard, it's wrong. You're actually not supposed to be doing it if it's hard. If it's hard, give it up. Relationships, work, people, friendships, if that's a really, really hard friendship, give it up, because the things that are right for you will feel like right, when you're doing what you love to do, whatever, work-wise, I still hate to use the word work, but whatever, how you spend your days, you love it, you're in flow, right? There's no sense of discipline, like you could do it all day. Same thing when you're in love, when you're in the right relationship, like you could be with that person all day. It's not work. And of course conflicts happen, or like, not disagreements, and like even the conversation of talking through that conflict is the easiest thing in the world, so I think a lot of this also has to go down to letting go of the idea that relationships are supposed to be work, relationships are supposed to be hard. If it feels like work, it's wrong. If it feels hard, it's wrong. Like, that is it. God, you guys, I would have saved myself so much trouble. But yeah, date intentionally, move intentionally. Don't just be like, okay, all these things are like coming by, let me engage a little, let me see if, okay, it doesn't feel horrible, it doesn't feel great, but it's fine. Like when I find my great person, I'll leave this. And the problem with that is it's really hard. I'm gonna do like another YouTube video on this. It's hard to break the habit of settling. Like settling becomes a habit when you keep engaging in things that are like subpar. If it's like a 7 out of 10 situation, but you have this idea of future you is going to have a 10 out of 10 situation, it's wrong. It's just wrong. It's just going to end up being your future. The more time you spend with 7 out of 10s, in terms of like how good of a fit they are, I'm not talking about physicality, I'm talking about someone who is, an okay fit but not that great of a fit, they're not a 10 out of 10 fit for you, then the longer you engage in that, the more that'll just become your future, because you become what you practice. And if you're practicing meh, your life will become meh. But if you practice needs to be phenomenal, it needs to be phenomenal. And if you practice that, that will be your life. But it's a really, really important to have a list. No matter how emotionally involved you are, adhere to that list. And I guess that's just 2 points. And get rid of the idea that it's supposed to be hard. Like I have always found love when I am completely at peace. You never find love when you're looking for it. And like, stop using force and will and pushing, because you guys, it's so unnatural to use force to grow. Like thinking about the grass, like grass doesn't use force to grow. Like it's not struggling and striving. I don't believe that we're supposed to strive to find love. I don't believe we're supposed to strive to grow, to become more of ourselves. It's the most natural process in the world, and it will happen so naturally if you just kind of let go of all these things you're holding on to. But yeah, grass doesn't strive to grow. You shouldn't strive to grow. Nothing in nature strives and pushes and forces to find love. And I feel like that's why so many dating apps don't work. I feel like, I never used a dating app before in my life, but I also don't hear a lot of good things. But who knows? Some people find love, so whatever. But if it feels like a struggle, it's wrong. You're actually not supposed to be engaging in things that feel like a struggle. And how freeing how freeing to come to that realization. When you come to the realization that, wow, life is actually supposed to feel like the easiest thing in the world, and if it doesn't, that means I'm moving in the wrong direction and I have to move towards the direction of things that feel easy. Like, what a fun time. We all just subscribe to this idea that it's supposed to be hard, and it's miserable. It's miserable. Okay, this was fun. Thank you. No, yeah. I also keep thinking about filming YouTube, like, intros. Like, you know how people have the little, like, hi guys, welcome to my channel. Like, I'm Affy. I can't do that. That feels so weird to me. I can't. So, sorry if I don't have intros. I don't know if that's, like, really important. Either ways. Okay, cool. This is fun. Good rant time. I've hoped you've learned something. I am really glad to have gotten this off my chest. Okay, cool. Okay. Love you. Bye.